All right. So today we're going to jump into a story that probably feels all too familiar for a lot of people out there. It starts in a warehouse just overflowing with stuff where the whole system is just about to buckle. We're talking about the origin of KiipList, a tool that wasn't dreamed up in some fancy office, but was literally born out of the chaos of a real fast-growing online business. So let's just get right to it. If you're selling anything online, I mean anything, you know this feeling, right? You've got piles of inventory just sitting there, not even listed yet. You're constantly trying to keep track of what's on eBay versus what's on Amazon, and you live in constant fear of selling something you don't actually have. It's a total logistical nightmare. Does this picture here hit a little too close to home? And for every single item, it's the same old story. It's a grind. First, you got to clean the product, set up a decent spot to take photos, then you're snapping pictures from every conceivable angle. Okay, photos done. Now you got to sit down and rack your brain to write a good title and a description that'll actually sell it. Then you list it on eBay. Great. Now, do it all over again for Amazon. And then repeat that for every single thing in that pile. It's a massive, soul-crushing time sink, and it's all manual. So how did all that pain turn into an actual solution? Well, believe it or not, it was a total accident. See, the founders, they ran an automation company, and whenever they'd upgrade some old industrial gear, they were left with all these perfectly good used parts. And that sparked an idea for, a little side project. And you gotta love their mindset here. This wasn't about creating some mind-blowing new piece of tech. Nope. They just saw a really practical need, a market for these used parts, and they just focused on doing it, day in and day out. And we're not talking about some huge launch. It started small. Like $300 a week small, just selling those parts on eBay. It was a humble start for sure, but it worked. And that little bit of success, well, it created a much, much bigger problem. And this right here is where their success almost broke them. The inventory started piling up way faster than they could ever hope to list it. Their simple do-it-yourself manual process was just completely swamped. They had officially hit the breaking point that, honestly, every growing business eventually runs into. And this just puts it in perfect perspective. Look at this. Using the old software from eBay, they could maybe, on a good day, get 10 items listed. But to even make a dent in the mountain of inventory coming in, they needed to be listing 200 items a day. The math just wasn't mathing. So what do? You throw people at the problem, right? They built a whole assembly line. You had one person whose only job was the physical stuff, cleaning parts and getting them ready. Then another person who did nothing but take pictures and measure everything. And here's the key part. For all that digital work, all that typing, they hired remote workers overseas to do the data entry. They'd turn the photos and notes into draft listings. Then managers would check and post them, and a whole other team would handle shipping. But here's the thing. Even with this whole human-powered machine, it still wasn't enough. The process was just too clunky and slow. Things were literally getting lost in the warehouse. The core problem, how to scale, just wasn't solved. And this is the moment they realized, you can't buy a fix for this. You have to build it. This wasn't some grand plan to launch a software company. It was purely an act of survival. They started building a tool just for themselves, designed to do one thing, solve their own massive, out-of-control inventory problem. And the tool didn't just appear overnight. It grew in stages, solving one problem after another. First came weight control, just a simple little thing to make listing on eBay faster. Then they added inventory control to actually track what they had. Then they built a deep integration with eBay to sync everything up. Slowly but surely, feature by feature, they built the exact tool they needed, which eventually grew into the platform we now know as KiipList. So that brings us to today. That scrappy internal tool, born out of pure necessity in a messy warehouse, has now become this sleek, really powerful platform that's out there for any online seller who's facing those exact same headaches. So this is it. This is mission control. Instead of juggling 5 different logins for all your stores, you just plug everything in here. Your eBay, your Amazon, Bonanza, whatever you've got, it's all managed from one spot. You get this single unified view of your entire business. And this right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. It's a single source of truth for your inventory. So when you sell an item on eBay, boom, the quantity automatically updates on Amazon and everywhere else. That simple little sync is what stops you from making those awful overselling mistakes that lead to angry customers. And the software isn't just about what's on the screen. It actually streamlines the physical work in your warehouse. This ready-to-pull screen tells your team exactly which items to grab off the shelves, and for which orders. It just takes all the guesswork and human error out of packing your orders. And now, this is where it gets really cool. It's all powered by modern automation. Remember that tedious data entry they used to hire remote teams for? Well, now, KiipList uses AI to help write unique, search-friendly titles and descriptions for you. It can even help with customer service questions. It basically automates the exact tasks that created that horrible bottleneck in the first place. The system handles the grind, so you can actually focus on growing. So, hearing that story, from total chaos to complete control, it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Every business that's growing eventually hits that wall, that breaking point, where the old way of doing things just can't keep up. So it's worth asking yourself, where is that point for you? And what's really interesting is how they've structured this to grow with you. But the plan you've got to look at is the free one. For $0, a solo seller can get started, manage up to 100 products, and have unlimited orders. It's a completely risk-free way to see if this kind of system can actually help you out. Because at the end of the day, growth is what we're all after. But growth is also the ultimate stress test. So the real question you have to ask is this: is your current workflow built for the business you have today, or is it ready for the business you want to have tomorrow?